Hey there, and welcome to the People Who Help People podcast. This is the spot for HR and people ops pros who are all about building better businesses by putting people first. We chat with founders and experts who've been there, done that, and are generous enough to share what actually works. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hi. Today I'm happy to be speaking with Julie Tritch, Chief Wisdom Officer at Leading with Human Design, about human design what? Developing a SaaS product to improve interactions. 3 years ago, Julie co-founded Transformative Leadership with Emily Adams, a consulting firm focused on giving busy leaders time back through process standardization and simplification. Recently, they pivoted to a new venture, Leading with Human Design, where they aim to help entrepreneurs and leaders build aligned, profitable businesses with human design. Welcome to the podcast, Julie.
Thank you for having me, Craig. I'm excited to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So, Julie, what did I miss? Tell me a little bit more about your background, what brought you to Transformative Leadership, your partnership with Emily, and then we'll get into the pivoting stuff.
Okay. So background, born and raised in Indiana, went to Purdue University, got a degree in organizational leadership and supervision, which sometimes can be a mouthful to say. I did a concentration in manufacturing, absolutely loved it. Went into automotive manufacturing after high school, which is a bear in and of itself. For people who don't know, it's very cutthroat, very fast-paced, everything is like an emergency. It's almost like the same, I would imagine, the same like level of stress as like working in a hospital, only nobody's dying in manufacturing, because if they are, you're doing something really wrong. So I worked for 2 different companies in that industry. The last company was a French-owned company. I learned a lot of really great things. I learned a lot of don't do this kind of things. And I just remember like one of the first things being like, what in the hell have I gotten myself into? What is this? This is nothing like they told me it was going to be like in school. All of these things, right? It was complete shell shock. I'm like, what am I even doing? Why am I here? Is this what I'm meant to be doing? I had some really bumpy interactions, had some really great interactions. And then Emily and I actually met at the second company. And our first meeting, there was no love lost. And I think this will be perfectly explained, I think, later when we get into the human design piece. Now, knowing what our design types are, it made perfect sense the way that our first interaction went. She was working in HR. She came out to the production floor. I was just a line supervisor at the time. And she starts like rummaging through my team area, pulling out work instruction books, looking at stuff. This is wrong. You need a signature here. This is out of date. This isn't the newest version. All of these. I didn't even introduce herself. No idea who she was. Like I'd never met her before. And then she's like, I'll be back on Tuesday. I look at my team leader and I'm like, who was that? Those are not the words that I use, but I was like, who the fuck was that? And he was like, that's Emily. I'm like, that's Emily? He's like, that's Emily. I'm like, okay. So then a few months after that, she decided that she wanted to come out and be a production supervisor as well. So my boss at the time was like, hey, Emily wants to come, play supervisor. Like, what do you guys think? And I'm like, bring her on. Like anyone and everyone who wants to do this job, like let them come out and do it. Let them try. So our lines were right next to each other and we both had forward lines. And I just remember we grew kind of close at that point because she would always, come and ask me questions and ask me things. And I'm like, listen, if someone willingly wants to do this job, because the turnover was roughly 2 months that a person would last in the role before leaving. Yeah. So I was like, if someone wants to come and do this job, like I'm going to help them as much as possible. Right. So then after I think 11 months, I got promoted to be a production manager and she worked for me for a time. She loves to tell people that too. And then at one point, like she ended up leaving the company. Later, I left the company. We became best friends after she left the company. Around the time I think that I ended up leaving, actually, we were friends still, right? And hung out and all the things, but we became really, really close in 2019. And in was it 2021, I think? 22. We decided like, let's take all it, because I left the company, I got incredibly sick. I was sick for like 6 weeks, and it was because of stress, basically. I don't know if we talked about this previously, but
We did not.
I was incredibly sick. Like, I had been trying to leave the company for probably 6 months or longer before I actually did. It was like the universe was like slamming every door in my face that it could, right? And then all of these weird things that shouldn't be happening were happening. And it was like, it'd be like one weird thing, like we had to wear khaki pants. Like, all of my pants they just all came with, they had bleach stains on them. I didn't have bleach in my house. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. The butt of my pants ripped one day while I was at work walking up to my office. I had to promptly leave and go home and change. So it's like little thing after little thing after little thing. And then eventually I got incredibly sick to the point where I like barely eat. I was only drinking water. I was doing like a forced Whole30 diet, for anyone who knows what Whole30 is. No coffee, no alcohol, no, coffee was like life, right? So, and then I left to go on vacation for my first, like, you could call it spiritual retreat. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know what to tell people I was doing. So I'm like, I'm just going on vacation in California, because I didn't know what to tell people what it was. I didn't really know myself. And so I just kind of like dove headfirst into self-development, spiritual development, whatever kind of label you want to put on it, and left the company, moved down south with family. And then at one point, Emily and I decided, like, let's take the things we learned in automotive, the things that they do really well, like structure, discipline, problem solving, and take those modalities that we learned, and then take the things that they do a really shitty job at, which is leadership and developing people, and like, let's just start a company and put the two things together. Because entrepreneurs don't often know how businesses work and how they run, unless they've had a corporate background. So that's where it all started. That's how it all started.
Got it. That was a bit of a winding road. The spiritual retreat, how long did that last? Or was that was just the start of a journey?
That was the start of the journey. That retreat lasted like 4 days, I think. And while I was there, I decided, you know what? I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm going to drink coffee, and I'm going to have a glass of wine with dinner, and I'm just going to see how it goes. And I was pretty much perfectly fine.
Good. Okay. Stress does crazy things to us.
It does.
Okay. So both you and Emily are from Purdue. You had that in common. She made a fabulous first impression with you.
Yep.
You got to turn it around when she became a fellow supervisor, and then ultimately you were her production manager. That's cool. But then you became very good friends. You got through a tough spot, and you said, we're going to start our own company. And that's when you started Transformative Leadership. And that was in about 2022. Okay. So you've had a good run, three or so years. When did you start thinking about the second venture, leading with human design?
That is an interesting story as well, because we were partnering with someone else who had created a fantastic tool. Because how does one quantify, like, I can look at your system and I can tell you what's wrong with it, because instinctually, intuitively, and with what I just experience, right? But people want data. They want facts. They want something qualitative and quantitative, right? And so this person had come up with a tool that would do that, and that would show like where the gaps in leadership and things like this. That didn't last long, because they had their own company, we had our own company. We brought in another person to support with marketing, and it fell through. And then the three of us that were remaining, the marketing gentleman, Emily, and myself, were like, well, why don't we do this with human design? Because we already know human design. We already use human design with all of our clients. And ultimately, we wanted to take the other product in that direction. Like, we were going to launch that product and then maybe do a second iteration where it was human design related. And so we're like, well, why don't we just do this on our own? So here we are.
There you go. Okay. So it sounds like the thing that you're kind of calling a failed venture was actually a learning opportunity.
They're all learning opportunities.
Yeah. They all are. But you said, like, the idea of having a product aimed at improving leadership, but first pass, pure learning, Second pass, we know what we're going to do and we know the team we want to do it with. So I'd like to pause because I call this podcast Human Design. What? Because I'm not sure everybody fully understands human design. So could you take a moment and explain it to us enough so that the audience understands? Oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, so human design is a compilation of several different systems. And ultimately, it takes your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location. And it pulls these other systems in and it gives you a unique profile that is based 100% on you. Because if you look at astrology, which is one of the systems that makes it up, the positioning of the planets will not happen for another 25 to 26,000 years. So that's how the cycles of the progression of the universe goes. So it's uniquely formulated to you, and it has, like I said, other systems. So there's the I Ching, there's the Kabbalah tree of life, there's quantum physics involved, there's a thing called gene keys involved, lots of other systems, right, in astrology. So they pull all of these systems together to give you a very unique blueprint. Some live and die by it. Some use it as they don't know what it is because it's very complicated, and it is a very complicated, complex system. And then there are people like myself who I treat it like an experiment. So there are things within the system that make sense for me inherently and innately. But I think, as we talked about on our previous call, like there are things that I disagree with. So it's up to the individual. And I know, since astrology is probably the system that most people are most familiar with, even if they don't know like a lot of details, you've probably heard of people who like live and die by certain transits, and when Mercury's in retrograde they won't sign contracts and all kinds of crazy stuff that happens, right? And so it kind of just depends on where you land as a school of thought, basically.
Okay. So loosely astrology based. Other factors involved. I have a unique blueprint. You have a unique blueprint. And you mentioned something. You said, I treat it like an experiment. But I kind of feel like you treat it like an experiment because that's your type from your 3-5 splenic projector, if I remember correctly, likes to, you said FAFO, fumble around and figure it out. Fumble around and figure it out, right? So,
Yeah.
yes, so you're an experimenter. So tell me how that all works together when it comes to starting a business called Leading with Human Design.
So there's a lot in that. Yes, I definitely treat it like an experiment because of my profile lines, which, as you said, are 3-5. However, the original creator of human design, his name is Ra, and he is also like, that's how he explains it to people, that it is an experiment. So, and that's why I try to help people understand it in that way, because there can be things that work for you right now that maybe in the next season of your life aren't going to work. It's kind of like tools, right? So some people like to meditate or journal or work out in a certain way, and then maybe in the next season of their life, the meditation just doesn't cut it for them, or journaling is not the thing that helps them work through their issues, or they no longer are drawn to doing HIIT workouts and they need to just do heavy weightlifting, right? So that's kind of where I see it as the experiment piece. And then I think that the other piece of that you were wanting to bring in was utilizing this as a business. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what are you selling? And how are you convincing people who typically think very logically, especially, but then you're going into the realm of leadership development and say, hey, I've got this system here that helps you understand your interactions better, etc.
Yeah. So I like to paint the picture that most entrepreneurs will probably be familiar with, and that's marketing. So we have what we call bro marketing, right? Where it's like hustle, grind, do all the things, post 17 times a day, or you do, right? There's a very specific formula that everyone should be following. And if you follow the formula, you will have success. Doesn't work like that for everyone, right? So we know that just because one way of doing things works for, we'll call it roughly 70 to 80% of the population, which also correlates to human design. And I'll get into that. But so what works for a good majority of the population does not work for everyone. So what we're finding is a lot of entrepreneurs, especially, and even business and even like larger businesses, find that we're not figuring out how to connect with our people. And sometimes we think it's like a generational issue, right? We don't know how to communicate to each other because we're not from the same lived experience and generations. And a lot of this actually can be explained by your design, the way you make decisions, which is called your inner authority, the way that you move through the world energetically, which is your type, right? And so when I say 70 to 80% of, we'll go back to the bro marketing, right? 70 to 80% of people, these theories and these practices and these methodologies, these strategies work for 70 to 80% of the population, because 70 to 80% of the population are generators and manifesting generators.
Okay.
So if a generator and a manifesting generator are teaching strategies, and they may not know that that's what they are, but they're teaching strategies that work through energy, through push, through force, through hustle, then that's going to work for 70 to 80% of the population. Because it'd be like me as a projector teaching other projectors how to move in business, right? Caveat, as a projector, I'm only 20% of the population. So what I'm teaching for projectors, and we've already discussed that you're probably a gen or a man gen, if you haven't looked it up yet.
I have not.
I was really hoping you would have, but that's okay. But again, so it's going to be different for every person. And that's where, we see a lot of the deep exploration that happens through self-development, spiritual development. Like, these are tools that you can put in the tool belt and into the kit, right? But if we're really leaning into our design or into the person's design specifically, and also your business has its own design, because your business has its own creation date, with you can think of as a birth date, right? And so, and this is getting a little woo-woo probably and a little weird, but if there is, that's the inception point, that's the creation point, right? So that's like its birth date. So you can take it from, this is when the idea and the concept came into play, or this is when I first was officially established and got my LLC, or, whatever. But then you look at this from a team dynamic. And if I am we'll say if I'm a reflector and I am leading like a reflector, that's probably not the best example because they're very great at being chameleons. They reflect their environment, the health of their environment. So, but if I'm a generator and I'm leading a projector, the projector's picking up my energy, probably doing exactly what I want them to do, but they're going to burn out quickly because they're non-energy being, right? So we have to learn also the strengths of one type and weaknesses are not the same strengths and weaknesses of another type. So if you have a dynamic team, like a company that we're working with, they have 5 or 6 people on their team, but they're all mani-gens and generators. So they don't have that mix of what they need. So there are pieces, like they need a projector on their team because projectors are good at systems and they're very efficient. So that's what they need to help them do the things that generators and mani-gens don't like to do most often.
Got it. So you said, Craig, you didn't look up what you are, but you and I talked and we figured out I'm probably a generator or a manifest generator. And it has to do with the energy that I bring and I manifest. You did say I think you just said I fit in 70 to 80% of the population. Is that 70 to 80% of the broad population or of entrepreneurs?
The broad population.
Broad population. Okay. Okay. And sometimes as I'm thinking about this or we're talking about it, it feels a little bit like Myers-Briggs in a way, in that we have a way to figure out what type we are and understand what others' types are to improve our interactions and lead them better / interact better as a team. Is that a good analogy or is that a poor analogy?
I would say it's an okay analogy. It goes much, much deeper than that. But yes, it is a way to establish and distinguish some very key factors about a person and how they operate, and then how we can best operate with them and to them.
Got it. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. You're putting together a SaaS product, and I'd like to talk about why are you choosing to put together a product, and how are you going to price it? And I don't mean exact pricing, but you and I spoke about 3 tiers. So because this podcast, The People Helping People, is focused on each of us learning from what others are doing, I thought that was interesting when you and I spoke in advance of one of the ways you're going to deliver services is through this SaaS product. So talk me through that.
Yeah. So yes, the SaaS product, which is complete, it's up and running at this point. We are in the beta stage, so there is debugging that's going on and really learning like customer journey, customer experience. What are people loving? What are they not loving? And so from that, the 3 tiers, the entry point, there's a free trial for 3 days. After the 3 days, then you can go to the base model, and that is $37.99. The next model up from that it should be $97.99, and then the next model up from that is $197.99 a month. So what you get with the $37 model is you can run an unlimited number of charts. So if you are a family of 5, you could go in there and you could run all 5 charts and see what each person is based on, it's got design, it's got profile lines, it's got authority, it's the whole shebang, right? And so you can go in there and you can run that. What it will do for you also is there is a leadership journey, because this tool specifically, while you can use human design broadly, and that's what most people do is use it broadly for life, what we are gearing it towards is how do you use this in your business to make your business run better? And how do you do this as a leader, whether it's just you are a leader of yourself or you have a team. So the leadership journey, we have a 90-day leadership journey that's in there. And the first 30 days is just you learning step by step your unique profile. So takes you through the different types, takes you through the different combinations of profile lines. So you can see, yes, this is what I am. But you can also say, but my kid I'm a 3-5, but my kid is a 6-2, or whatever the case may be. And you can learn, or you could pull the people on your team and you can say, they're a manifesting generator and I am a projector. So then you're going to learn some things and some things will start to click into place. The next model up from there, you get more resources. Like we have resources that you can purchase as like one-off things, right? We have 3 ebooks, but the higher up you go in the subscription model, the more of these things that you get. We're also doing a gamification with it where if you're on the platform for so long, we're going to give you, whether you're at the $37 model or not, we're going to give you some of these things for free. That way, that way it's the incentive to stay, right? And to keep being in and to keep learning. But it's kind of like a thank you, right? Because we fully believe the more that people know about human design, learn it and live their design and utilize it, the better off people are going to be. And then all the way at the top tier, we're going to do monthly coaching calls. So it'll probably end up evolving into something kind of like a school group where we'll have like our own group hosting on there where people can interact with each other and can ask questions. But all models also get our AI chatbot, which is it pulls in your chart and then you can ask it questions through the leadership journey. We also give prompts in there that you can ask specifically so you can learn more details about yourself.
And that came to mind as well as I was thinking about this in the tiers. It sounded, some of what you were designing sounded like a school SKOOL group where there's a membership, like-minded community, we're learning the same thing, etc. But I like how you use the AI chatbot and you bring in specific elements. So thank you for talking me through those tiers, because I thought that's instructive as others are thinking about possibly productizing some of their services, how they might offer those. You said something very interesting that you just kind of slid in there. Although this is leading with human design and it's focused towards leaders, you said, hey, this works with your family, or this works with social interactions. Touch on that briefly.
So the one piece that I always love to talk about is communication, right? Because I think one of the ways that we can excel in relationships or crash and burn in relationships is through communication, right? So different design types communicate very, very differently. So I'll take my business partner and myself, for example. As a projector, we have a tendency to kind of sit back, watch, and observe. However, we'll call it the shadow side or the unhealed projector, they love to give unsolicited advice. Anyone who's ever had unsolicited advice, and because we can see all the things that you can't see. And so if you've ever had this experience, you're like, oh my God, I wish they could just see what I see right now. I wish they just knew, right? But on the flip side, it's not my business whether you know or don't know the things that I can see about you unless you want to know. And then I'm happy to share. So that's a big thing right there. But with the communication piece, so from a projector standpoint, like my business partner, Emily, I have really good pattern recognition. She has really excellent pattern recognition. So there are times where she's like, hey, I'm working on this thing of myself. Like I'm working on, being better with sales, or I'm working on whatever. If you see a pattern that comes up around this topic, please share it with me, because she knows as a projector, that's my like wisdom and my as the guide, that's what projectors do. And then from her standpoint, as a manifestor, she is an initiator. So if she has a fabulous idea and she just goes and runs with that idea, but doesn't communicate it to the rest of the team, we're like, what the hell is she doing? Where did this come from, right? Whether it's a fabulous idea or not, sometimes you can feel like you're being caught out, and that's not the intention, right? It's just, they're manifestors. They move quick once they get a lot of beautiful information and knowledge in, and then they move super fast. And they can also be in sprints. So we've learned to communicate, like when she is in a sprint, she will let me know I'm in a sprint, which means go, 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 go. Could be an hour, could be 5 days, could be 3 months, who knows? So when she's in a sprint, she's very much locked in. Like, I don't have time to mess around. I'm not here to chit chat. I'm here to get things done. And it's not that she's being rude. It's just part of her design and where she's at. So she communicates, I'm in sprint mode. And then I know, okay, cool. Like, then this informs me of how the interactions and communications are going to be best moving forward while she's in that sprint.
Got it. Okay. I wish I had more time, because I'd love to ask you about, looking back, that first interaction you had and knowing her type now, but we do need to draw to a close. I've enjoyed this conversation, Julie. I've enjoyed getting to know you better, and it's exciting that your product's in beta and launching soon. If folks heard something that they like and they want to know more about the product, the beta, your company, how would you like them to get in touch with you? What's the best way to learn more?
So I would say that there's several ways. So we have our website, which is leadingwithhumandesign.com. We have the app site, which I will also send that to you, so you can just post that in the show notes. And then they can find me on LinkedIn. Julie Tritch is my name, as we said before. And then Instagram is a platform that I'm really active on. And my handle is julie.tritch33.
Julie.Tritch33. Got it. I look forward to getting that link to the app site, checking it out myself. And it sounds like if I wanted to, I could have 3 days to try it out for free before I decide.
Mm-hmm.
I will do that. All right, good. Julie, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope you have great holidays, whatever you've got planned.
Thank you. I hope you do the same.
Thank you.